After that game, they nicknamed me the junkyard dog.
When your alarm went off at 2 a.m, you had to get up to go pack veggies all day just so you could cycle. Like, what was driving you to do that?
For me, I'd just go out on these rides and I'd just bury myself and nothing would make me happier.
At what stage did you realise that your gift was no longer being an athlete, but it was helping other people be the best versions of themselves?
It's funny, you even saying that makes me emotional.
This podcast is brought to you by Woodside Energy, helping young players develop and grow as the official sponsor of the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dubya. I'm Seabass and joined as always by cross-code gun Rosie Deegan. Let's jump straight into our guest this week. She's got a pretty impressive sporting resume. Jess Sedunary has represented Australia in cycling. She's won a premiership with the Adelaide Crows in the inaugural season of the AFLW. She finished her playing career at the West Coast Eagles, retiring last year with 35 games under her belt, and she's now turned her hand to coaching as an assistant coach at the Gold Coast Suns. She's also just announced that she will be returning to WA as the very first coach for the Perth Demons in the WAFLW next season. It's super exciting to have Jess with us this week. Jess, you're one of our favourite type of athletes because you're an OG cross-coder. You started out in hockey before getting talent ID'd to go into cycling with the South Australian Institute of Sport. But I understand there were some financial obstacles that you were challenged by. Can you explain them to us?
One of the stories I like to tell is when I went to Youth Olympics, in a pursuit, I lined up for the pursuit, and the person on the other side of the track has disc wheels, aero helmet, really good bike. And I just had a $50 hire bike. And I remember the Australian coach coming up to me and he's like, "Why have you got road cranks on your track bike?" And I was like, "It just costs you $50 a month and it's all that I can afford." But yeah, when you line up across the track from someone with all the gear, well, they have a 6-second head start before you've even started. So, in cycling, obviously, money and having the right gear makes a huge difference. In a sport where you're talking about milliseconds. That was at Youth Olympics in 2007. And off the back of that, my parents and school kind of said to me, what do you want to do with your life? Your grades are starting to drop with all the training that you're doing. And I was working at Hog's Breath Cafe at the time for $7 an hour, Back then, that might get you a singlet from Supre or something like that.
Hey, Supre was cool.
Supre was in back then.
They were great festival clothes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just said, and probably got pushed a little bit into, focusing on school because there was no career for women in cycling at the stage. So, focused on school, did really well with my grades, got into uni for PE teaching, did a year of that before. I just felt like there was a big hole in my life and felt like I was born to be an athlete, and I was unfinished with that. So I thought I'll take a year off of uni and get stuck back in my cycling. And so I was packing veggies at 3 a.m. That's the job that I got through my dad and stuff. And it was 10-hour days, like lifting big bags of 20-kilo onions and potatoes and working in a freezer. And my dad used to ride with me to work. So we'd leave at 2:30 in the morning. I'd work the 10 hours and then I'd go ride 100K or 120K or whatever it might be by myself as well.
Were you just eating at work constantly?
Yeah, all the veggies were slowly disappearing.
All the bananas.
Yeah.
But yeah, so did that for a year before my coach sat me down, and I still remember it today. He just said, to be recognised on a national stage and get in a pro team and all of that, you need to go away at least 5 times a year, sorry. And I remember just thinking, I can't even get 5 weeks off of work, like talk to my boss about having 5 weeks off. So yeah, it was pretty disheartening. And for someone that, got good grades and had so much potential, like it never occurred to me that I might end up with nothing, which is how I felt at the time, because I didn't have uni, I didn't have sport, and I was just packing veggies. So,
what was it about, I guess, an Olympic sport? So cycling, obviously going to the Olympics, you were clearly happy to make those sacrifices to do that. But were you tempted to go to, netball, which would, you would fit it in so easily, I could imagine, or more of a traditional sport that maybe didn't have an Olympic pathway? Because, Rosie, you're in the same boat, I guess, when it comes to choosing sports. You've got basketball here, which is shiny and you can play international, and you've got AFLW, which is only here in Australia. Like, how did you make that choice?
I did have times of where I was like, maybe I'll go back to hockey. The thing that I struggle with hockey is that I played above my age a lot, and I think I got pretty burnt out with that. But yeah, I think I kind of thought I was past it at that stage. Even though I was still pretty young, I didn't really play much netball or basketball growing up, so it didn't really occur to me that I could play that sport or even transition to another sport at the time. Whereas now it's very normal to be a dual athlete. So yeah.
So what was driving you when your alarm went off at 2 a.m? You had to get up to go pack veggies all day just so you could cycle? Like, what was driving you to do that?
I think what I really loved about cycling was it was bloody hard, and every time you train you have a real opportunity to get better than your oppo, which is, it's very different to footy in that way. And like, the harder you train, the easier the race will be on race day. And you just dread it. You dread race day. You know it's just going to be hurt locker the whole way. So for me, I'd just go out on these rides and I'd just bury myself and nothing would make me happier. Come home and not a care in the world afterwards because that was so hard.
See, I'm hearing that. I'm going, absolutely not.
As would 99.99% of the population, I think. Like, that hardness is enough to make them go, nah, I'm not even going to try. When did AFL become, I guess, on the radar? Or when did you pick up a footy for the first time?
It's funny because I have 3 brothers. So everyone's like, oh, your brothers must have got you into it. But they're not really into sport. So my dad was very happy. But I was actually playing mixed netball. I was working in a law firm at the time and playing in our work team. And I saw an old schoolmate who came up and was like, why don't you come play football? I had looked at playing AFL when I was at uni. So it would have been 2009. And there was only 3 teams in Adelaide. And I remember thinking, it's just not like professional enough for me. Like, and I went and played soccer instead and wish I'd done it now. But yeah, so when my mate approached me and asked me, I said, yeah, I'll come out and play. It was at a club that my dad had played at as well, Ingle Farm, and came out to training and I was so bad. Like,
wait, Rosie, you've seen me kick a football.
Yeah,
I'm pretty bad.
You can't be as bad as Seabass.
I don't think you can be worse than me.
Not first time round, at least.
I didn't even get asked to come back and play the game.
Maybe you are worse.
Touche.
Well, you know what footy's like? You go out to training and it's so different to a game. And back then we shared the oval with the men and we just got the little corner piece of the oval. And unfortunately, there's like a hue and a fence and we're doing lane kicking. My ball just kept spraying over the bloody fence and I had to keep going, getting it, and it was so embarrassing. And yeah, so they were short on numbers but didn't ask me to play. And then my dad was like, come on, keep going, you can do it. And similar story the next training session. But they were really short and asked me to come out to play. And then I was sitting on the bench. I started on the bench, it was about halfway through the game. And that was killing me because I hate not playing it and watching. And then someone got injured and they said, oh, Sedge, you're on the ball. Because I'd played soccer and hockey, I was like, what is on the ball? What is that? I've never heard of that position. I remember running out and I was like, what? And they just said, just run and chase the footy. And I did that. And I just ran and tackled. I love tackling and I'd get the ball and just sprint as hard as I could with it. And yeah, after that game, they nicknamed me the junkyard dog. I just went at everything. And then the state coach was there and she asked me to come out to state training after that. And that was the start of the whole football stuff. Yeah, now
I
I'm
was
sitting
about
here.
to say, you surely weren't that bad because...
I was going to say the state coach on your first game picking
and then
you up.
you end up getting drafted. You play in the very first iteration of AFLW for the Crows and you win a premiership. Like, how cool is that? You're playing with Erin Phillips. Like, was that just like a pinch me dream come true moment when the league started?
I remember, like, even when I got drafted, it was just such a big moment for me and my parents. Like, I bought this little apartment and I remember my couch wasn't big enough to fit me, mum and dad on it. So mum's on a beanbag on the floor. And when my name got called out, like, my mum just jumps up and everyone jumps off. And for me, like, my family made so many sacrifices with the cycling. It was just really, it really showed to me that your hard work, it doesn't matter where you're doing it, it'll pay off in some way in life. So for me, it was like that sweat equity, like it paid off. And I didn't care if I played or not. You know, I just was so happy to be drafted. I was 26, 27 then. So pretty stoked to be starting that journey and just getting there, you know, before I was too old. And then when I got named to play the first game was pretty good. Then when we won the premiership, and I was very fortunate to have, you know, Bet Goddard was our coach and she picked a team based on good people and, you know, her ability to tell stories. And back then there was a big article that came out in the paper that said we didn't have enough talent to have a license in South Australia. So we built a foundation on that. And, you know, if you know Erin, she's so fierce in the way she goes about stuff. And Chelsea Randall was just so positive. And the group of girls was just, it was phenomenal. Like, we all worked so hard. None of us drank, like, most of us didn't drink for the full 10 months. And we just went so hard at it. And I just still pinch myself now. I don't know if it's really sunk in. I always said it will probably sink in afterwards. And yeah, because I obviously didn't win another one after that. So, you know, something I'll cherish forever.
If you're from Port Hedland, there's a good chance you'll know a player from the Hedland Blazers. The Blazers are Hedland's first women's AFL team, and with support from the local senior league club, there are now teams to accommodate girls from 6 all the way up to 45 years old. Clubs like the Blazers help build resilience, self-esteem, healthy lifestyles and create lifetime friendships, which is why BHP is proud to support them. A place in the team for everyone. To the girls of the Hedland Blazers, that's big. So you're with the Crows, you then have a stint at St Kilda when they join the competition, you then end up back at the Crows, but then you end up on the inactive list because you go back to cycling. What is it? What's with the pull for cycling? Why did you do that?
I love riding bikes. Like, I really love bikes.
You can ride your bike to training.
Fast.
Yeah.
No, I do. I ride my bike to work. Like, you know, it's just something I've really enjoyed. And I don't even know how it came about, but I heard that they were doing re-talent testing and stuff like that. And obviously I had connections through being in that space previously. So they were pretty keen to get me on board. And with the timing of everything, we thought I could get a solid off season. So I juggled both for a little bit and work, which was hard. And then battling a lot of injuries and all that in there as well. And then they moved the AFLW season forward. So I wasn't going to have a whole 6 months off. And they were like, we kind of need at least 8 months of data to see the projection if you'll make the Olympics, like if you're trending the right way. So I was trending really well. So I thought, yeah, it's worth taking a year off. I spoke to my manager. The year after was when the more teams were coming in. So we thought she'll be able to get back there, hopefully. So I guess it was a bit like, can I finish what I started when I was younger? You know, when I was forced out of sport, I couldn't even watch the Olympics. I couldn't watch anything on TV. So I was pretty hurt. And so it was, I guess, just an opportunity to go back and try and finish what I started. And I love sprint because it's 3 laps and it's very technical, bike skills, takes a lot of courage. and a bit of attitude, and I really frothed that kind of side of it. I love flying behind a motorbike as fast as you can and that kind of stuff. So I took the year off. I'm not afraid of taking a risk in life as well. It's still learning. I worked really hard at it, but it's so isolating. It's so lonely. And that's one thing I loved from footy was the banter, the friendships. I've got friendships that'll last the rest of my life from footy now. And I went back out to a SNFL training session, and that same state coach was actually my Sandford coach then. And one training back, and I just laughed so hard for the whole session. And I was like, I miss this. If I was younger, I might have pursued the cycling a bit longer, but it was kind of stage in my career. I was 30, 31. And I was like, if I want to go back to footy, like I have to do it now. So Crows are really good about it as well. And they really supported me. And I spoke to a couple of clubs, and what West Coast are doing and what they were trying to do really appealed to me in terms of I really like being a leader and helping the younger generation coming through. And so I just put the cycling to the side and got stuck back into footy.
I found a beautiful clip of you when you retired, and you're talking about, you always knew that the purpose of life was finding a gift and then giving it away. So At what stage did you realise that your gift was no longer being an athlete, but it was helping other people be the best versions of themselves?
It's funny, you even saying that makes me emotional. I don't know. I'm pretty tired at the moment. I guess with my journey and speaking about it, like, it was really challenging. And I was talking to my psychologist one day, and she was telling me, like, it's the amount of athletes that all come in with the same stories. And I have high levels of empathy. So I just, once I, bond with someone, I just want to help them, and I want them to realise that it can be really, really challenging and really, really hard. But if you've got the right support and guidance around you, you can get through it. And a lot of the times I think back to my younger self, and, I guess just helping them helps me as well, like probably heal a little bit from how hurt I was from, I guess, some of the struggles that I faced. And I knew as well very much that during my career, the whole time was in the back of my mind, I want to set myself up. I don't want to go back to packing veggies ever. So, if I can find a career where I can help athletes realize their dream, to me, like, if I can do that through a rare mix of gentleness and toughness, built through, love and wanting to help them grow, that's pretty fulfilling for me.
How great is it, the fact that you've had those experiences yourself? Like, do you find that it gives you a leg up? Because we've seen what Daisy's done in her short time with the West Coast Eagles, and having those experiences and being able to relate to an athlete on their level, it really helps build that relationship, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. A lot of the girls, like, I'm the forward line coach here, so when I have those one-on-one meetings, trying to get players back in the side, or having to drop players or whatever it might be, I just feel like I have a really deep level of understanding of that, and then I'm able to help them through it and guide them, and they know that I know how it feels, because I've been there. And that's one thing I'll always be grateful for, is I've had this kind of career like this, but it shows me the way through so many times of, like, challenging times and adversity. So being able to share that with athletes and learn from how I felt with coaches during those kind of conversations, and what can help them, and the importance of understanding them it's been really good.
Well, Jess, we really, really appreciate you joining us. Obviously in the thick of the season with the Suns at the moment, but we look forward to having you back in WA soon. And thank you so much, and good luck for the rest of your season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
If you think that the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy is only about footy, think again. It's also about giving young people the opportunity to realise there is the possibility to be great on and off the field. It's about helping young players develop and grow, and as the official NGA partner, Woodside is supporting this dream from grassroots to greatness. Growing Freo's pool of talent to feed the AFLW and AFL, and always cheering our next generation on. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy. Well, round 5 is coming at ya. Fremantle are going to be taking on St Kilda away on Friday. The Eagles are going to be against GWS on Sunday. It's the AFL Grand Final happening on Saturday as well. I don't know if you registered that. There's not been much talk about it, but who do you reckon?
I've been watching too much AFLW to be paying attention.
Who do you think's going to win, Rosie?
I'm actually backing in Brizzy.
Really?
I was backing in Geelong. So I've been quite upset, obviously, with the result that happened.
So it's Swans and Brisbane won in a thriller the other night over Geelong, hence why you're having a tantrum.
Hence why I'm having a tantrum. And I was parading around the living room when we scored the 2 goals and went in front. So it was a humbling moment. So I'm going Brizzy to win it all.
You're going to Brisbane? I reckon it's going to be Swans. I think they are
really
good. They've been super dominant this year. Also, talking about super dominant, humble brag here. If you go on the game Footy tipping for AFLW at the moment and you look at the expert tippers,
which we are,
you might notice something, and that is Caitlin Bassett is sitting at number 2 at the moment, and just below her in the 3rd position is you, Rosie. Give us some tips. Like, how can you help someone like a Glenn Quartermain who's languishing at the bottom of the ladder at the moment?
Even Alex Pearce is pretty low.
Disgusting.
It is, and I think it comes down to football IQ that we have. And I reckon continuously back in the West teams. That's what I've been doing, to my detriment and to my success.
Well, it's been helping. The 2 WA teams have been going amazingly well. They're currently both still in the top 8. So Freo are sitting 6th on the ladder and the Eagles are 8th. Eagles are having a record-breaking season so far this year. They've got their back-to-back wins under Daisy Pearce. They've won 3 games as well, which they've never done in a season before, and they were gunning for 3 on a row, but unfortunately Brisbane ended that fairy tale for them. I don't know about you, but Freo, they had my heart in my mouth the other day at the game.
They didn't lead the whole game.
They didn't.
Did you see the statistic? It was like the...
Time in front?
Yeah, time in front.
0%.
That is
so
insane.
do yourself a favour if you didn't watch, just watch the last 2 minutes of the Fremantle versus Melbourne Demons game on the weekend. Ash McCarthy, their superstar, she got a free kick actually after the siren and slotted a big one to get.
She just needed a point as well. She had to rub it in.
She just needed anything. I think that's what the girls were screaming at her. Just kick anything, just a point.
That takes the pressure off though.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, because then she's like, that's a big goal.
Yeah.
You'd hope you could get something.
Anything.
So, yeah,
just
exactly. So then it's like,
something.
then you're like, oh yeah, I don't need a goal to win this.
Well, look, plenty of action coming at us this round. Thanks for joining us today. Remember, for all your AFLW news, grab a copy of the West Australian or jump online to thewest.com.au. You can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube Music, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please leave us a rating and a review and tell your mates. We would love to listen.
Hop into our email.
Yeah,
someone.
I know. We would love to hear
Someone please
from
hop
you.
into our email.
Rosie is dying for a personal email. And to do that, head to Dubya at wanews.com.au. And we will catch you next week to discuss all the big news from round 5.
Dubya.
This podcast is brought to you by Woodside Energy, helping young players develop and grow as the official sponsor of the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy.